harassed you for at least a decade, way before I ever had a band, to write something for a trombone quartet. And finally, I was able to nail you down. The result was an arrangement of Soundgarden's tune "The Day I Tried to Live," written by Chris Cornell. Can you talk about what it was like to write that chart, and just stuff like how did you translate rock guitar to trombone?
Right. So we talked about what you might want in terms of an arrangement, and I think you brought up Soundgarden, and you said that this was something that you had is part of your youth and part of your musical DNA is listening to those classic Soundgarden records. And certainly, being on the West Coast, like grunge was also part of that for me. So I was excited about that as well, and dug through the old records, and it's like, "Day I Try to Live," I feel like it's an underrated Soundgarden cut. And it is in an odd time signature, has a very specific, very interesting drum groove. And so I started there of like trying to figure out, well, what is the drummer doing? Like, I've never heard a beat quite like that. And it sort of, at first I thought it was a double bass drum, and then I realized it wasn't. And it's actually sort of alternating low tom and bass drum, but with the bass drums on the off beats. And there are a lot of like details in that. And exploring that drum beat and like really transcribing it. And it helps that there are YouTube videos of these drummers who try to recreate it exactly. So I went through and I looked at, okay, yeah, so that sounds about right. And you can see, where all the limbs are. And just starting with that specific drum groove kind of gave me that, it gave me a way in, because a lot of jazz covers of rock tunes, I think, fall apart in the rhythm section playing, because it just doesn't have the, people tend to play something very generic, but rock drums tend to be very specific. There's something that the drummer does, in that tune that, Ringo Starr does in that one tune that he doesn't do in any other tune, and it's not the same without that. And so for The Day I Tried to Live, it really, like, once I had that drum part transcribed, everything else kind of fell into place of like, okay, well, I feel like this gives us the groove, and the structure of the song is actually very close to the arrangement on the record, because it's so well arranged, and the way the song unfolds, there are surprises in like where the chorus comes in and in the structure of the tune. It just, there's a lot of, I find like often in any arrangement, that the stuff that I'm most excited about arranging is the stuff that I don't have to do too much to, because the bones are strong. And that if there's material from the original version of it that I can incorporate and transform in some way, but still like respect, that often feels more satisfying to me than trying to reinvent the wheel. Like if the composition itself, including the arrangement and the structure of it, is good, then just use that, right? And so that's really what I did as a starting point. And then like where I start to deviate is in the middle, where the arrangement goes through these kind of stretched meters, where you take a portion of the beat and basically add a dot to it. I take like little portions of the groove and just make it, instead of a quarter note long, a dotted quarter note long, instead of an eighth note long, a dotted eighth note long, and just kind of like distend it. And it's kind of like, it's like mutating someone. It's like putting radiation on the chart, and then like growths start to spurt out of it in various ways, and it starts to break down and collapse, and then like it all sort of snaps back together at the end. So that was the basic thought process of taking the middle of the chart and like the solo section, and then like irradiating it and mutating it.
A little surprise is the addition of a vocalist for this, which was kind of a really strange story. And I don't know if I ever told you how it happened, but I know Kurt Elling from the Jazz Cruise. We've, friendly. I saw he did a video with Charlie Hunter during the pandemic, and I was like, would you ever want to do anything with my band? And he said, yeah, totally. I was looking to lean sort of in the grunge category, and I said, well, we could do this, or I have this arrangement of the Soundgarden tune. He said, let's do the Soundgarden tune. I said, would you want to be on the album? And he said, yeah. And I never thought he'd say yes. So I was like, oh crap, I got to do this. So I didn't want to tell you until it was done, and I heard it, and I was like, oh, I really love this. Now you can hear it. And so I hope that you like the finished product.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shock, obviously, and I remember you were very cagey about revealing it, and you're like, I have a surprise, and I'm going to give it to you, but you have to promise that you won't hate it before you listen to it. And I did not recognize Kurt Elling's voice at all, because that's not the way he normally sings. So this is a side of Kurt Elling that maybe Kurt Elling fans have not had the chance to experience. But obviously, it was amazing to hear what he brought to the music, and it was something that when I gave you the chart, there are lyrics written in below the trombone parts, because I really wanted the musicians who are playing the melody to think about the lyrics for the song and think about the phrasing and the articulation of the song as they were playing. So like the lyrics of the song were very important to me as I was crafting the arrangement, and then to have Kurt just sing the lyrics, it's like, well, that solves that problem. But yeah, it was just such I should say it was just such a delightful surprise to have that track in my inbox and listen to it and be like, this is amazing. Who is this?
I'm so glad. God, you can't tell me. You have no idea how relieved I am to hear you say delightful surprise. Very quickly, in 10 words or less, can you talk about the role of the trombone in jazz, and in your band specifically, and the bass trombone?
I've got this. So I'm gonna say like church, choir, like warm heart, and I'm gonna try and do it in 5, and blood.
Blood, I like it.
Church, choir, warm heart, blood.
The reason why I ask is because I see the way that you use the trombone section, and one of the reasons why I've been sticking to asking big band composers to write for my band is because they're used to writing for a section, and dealing with instruments for the same instruments and how to use them in different ways has been probably like the most limiting thing for composers that have to write for the band. But you use the trombone section in your band in very different ways. Quite often I'm not even playing with the trombone section. So I don't know if you can talk about that, if you have time to talk about just kind of that concept.
For me, the great strength of bass trombone in particular is the ability to get down into the sub basement, and the ability to like just literally extend the range of the big band. And one thing that I see in a lot of student charts is a reluctance to really push the range of the bass trombone, and a reluctance to like really go down well below the staff. Like maybe they'll go down to like a low C once in a chart, but they never go down below that. And it is such a missed opportunity, because the lower you go, the richer the overtones that are created by that. And just being able to expand that register makes the whole band feel more exciting. It makes, the lower the bass trombone goes, the more exciting the high lead trumpet notes are. And if you look at how a composer like Thad Jones writes for the big band, it's like an accordion. The lead trumpet comes down and the bass trombone comes up, and everything compressed. And then as things get more exciting, bigger and more exciting, the bass trombone goes down while the rest of the band goes up. And that ability to extend the sonic register of the band is something that's very important to me, which is why I also, rely on that low C bass clarinet a lot to explore that territory, because that register is so rich, and that register has such evocative power. When I got to use the contrabass clarinet on Brooklyn Babylon, it was like, oh, this is so good. I wish I could use this all the time. And it really it shapes everything else, right? As you know, the way you play those low notes has more impact on everything else that happens in the band in terms of intonation and volume and rhythmic feel, and just setting the tone. Obviously, the lead trumpet is very important when it comes to setting the articulation and the phrasing and the sort of melodic content. But the bass trombone is the person who really kind of lays down the ground rules for how the harmony should sound.
And that's, very often I'm with the bass, which I see more and more composers doing that. But I will say your band probably is the most challenging band that I play with. You're constantly, and it's not just, bass trombone. It's like everybody is being pushed to their limits, and we dig. Part of the fun thing is that we dig the sort of discovery of whether or not we can survive. If I can execute this perfectly and have every note be heard and everything, it's just such a challenge. So I'm very thankful that you wrote for Bonegasm. I can't tell you how exciting that was for me. And thank you so much for giving me your time today. I know it went longer than I said it would, but you are amazing and you are so much fun. And I could listen to you talk. I could listen to you read the Yellow Pages, just because you tell such great stories and you are so knowledgeable. I've told people that I imagine you're a vampire of knowledge. Like, you don't sleep. I'm convinced you don't sleep. And I believe that you're just sitting up at night absorbing information. So I love listening to you talk.
You're not totally wrong. But I do drink things other than blood. Just like